Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Welcome back to another week, another glorious week of Off Book, the Actors Book Club podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Juan Gamero. I am joined here with Alex,
Hello, I need water.
Gage,
Hello. If Juan seems off today, it's because 2 minutes before this, I just completely destroyed his prep.
100%, and Ali.
And I need Suja.
Oh, okay, possible sponsors.
Not a
for the
sponsor,
future.
but they could be.
Not- they
Yeah,
could be.
Kirkland Water.
Yeah,
Good
big
sponsor.
water, reach out.
Big water. We are all actors in different stages of our careers. In case you did not know this, in case this is the first time you are joining us, and hopefully it is not. Hopefully you are joining back and you are joining us for chapters 9 and 10, if I am not mistaken.
A big
am I
fat
wrong?
hen.
Ali is hesitating.
No, I was
Okay, we're
gaslighting
good?
you. You're good.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, good. 'cause
The
my
manipulators
nervous
on
system can't
stage.
handle anything. else.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Gage, take us away with your legendary
The legendary. Please finish.
summaries. There we go.
Okay. All right, chapter 9,
Stuck
nursery
the landing.
rhymes. The summary will be very brief because about 90% of both of these chapters is discussions. But chapter 9 is titled Nursery Rhymes. It begins with Amber doing the Jack and Jill rhyme with Bill's assistance. And with his assistance, the rhyme can become devastating or extremely happy or whatever, depending on the context. Bill calls the actor's greatest dilemma this sentence, I see what I'm supposed to say, but what do I mean? Bill demonstrates this exercise with Hickory, Dickory, and Dock. Then John and Quid do a bunch of different variations of the rhyme. Go to bed, Tom. Esper says, if you can make sense out of this, you can make sense out of anything. And then Esper says, without silence, life would lose all of its subtlety. Then he tells all of the actors to buy a copy of the Spoon River anthology for the next chapter, which is titled For the Summary. Sorry, that's in my notes. It's titled Spoon Rivers.
Titled For the Summary.
Titled For the Summary. No, that's my notes. Sorry. It's titled Spoon Rivers. And then Esper says, he begins the chapters talking about the benefits, and he says that the benefit of using a poem is to introduce heightened language, like in Shakespeare or a lot of classical literature. Then he starts with Cheryl, telling her she needs to take her poem and translate it into plain English. So they go line by line, translating the lines of this poem into something more plain. Then Esper says that you cannot create acting without an acting object. So what is it or who you are talking with? Then he starts talking about monologues or scenes with a production assistant or scenes where someone's using a hand or the camera. Excuse me. Where you're having to do it with someone who is not acting. And he says that it's sort of like doing a monologue with a ghost of a loved one. Like you believe that there's some essential part of them that is still there, and that is what you're speaking to. And then Esper says that there's only a few purposes for a script: to provide context and to create action. Dom goes with a poem. Esper says to only paraphrase things that have a meaning to you. Trevor brings a poem. Esper talks to the narrator about this assignment being hard. Esper compliments Dom, warns Cheryl because her emotion incapacitates her, and then the class wraps up. And that's our summary.
Fantastic.
Great summary.
I would love to start
Legendary.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So I believe
Just
it
really
is-
quick, though. Nothing.
I knew it too. That's why I did that.
Mm. Allie, we're gonna love. This episode is gonna be manipulative.
Got it. I'll match that.
Noted.
You're
Fantastic.
gonna get love bombed today.
Well, okay. Okay, you got it. Thank you. Okay. So Esper makes such a good point, and I'm so glad he said it because nobody else was going to, where he kind of insults British actors for a good page and a half. and says like he says everybody
I can
says
get behind that.
Shakespeare, they do Shakespeare so well. He goes, all they do is they talk with their marvelous voices.
Oh yeah.
About how he went and he saw a production at the RSC, Royal Shakespeare Company, and how he hated it. He said, I wanted to go because I knew that the actors there were supposedly so good, and I was bored to tears. To add to that, I had the very honor, very privilege of going to see an official RSC production at the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford upon Avon.
Oh,
It was, I'm going to call it out. It was School for Scandal, which is a Shakespeare era play. I went with a group of theater students. We were all so excited to watch and learn from these amazing actors. And I will say 90% of the show, with the exception of one or two actors who actually like did their job and invited us into the space and actually communicated with us, the rest of them were very performative. The rest of them, every single word and sentence they said on that stage was basically saying with the undertext, look at me, look at me, look how this cool voice I do.
Yeah.
Look at me. And now I'm walking stage left. Now I'm walking stage right. And I'm la 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 la. Don't I sound so great? Doesn't my outfit look so wonderful? The outfits did look fantastic. I'll say that. The set,
They were right, as it turns out.
yeah. So
the set was amazing. The costumes were great. But I'm so glad somebody said it. By the end of the performance, I could see my classmates from across the theater. They had their legs up, their heads back, and were taking naps.
Oh.
As was I. I was bored. Everybody was bored to tears. So thank you, William Esper. If you were still alive to hear this, I thank you for saying
He will thank you from the other side of mortal coil
no,
because
thank
he's
God somebody else.
Well, you got to believe that you're still talking to his essential essence, that it still exists.
The ghost of William Esper, yes.
Mhm.
You know, I think Esper does a lot of that, though. I think he says a lot of things. I think, first of all, it is so nice to have him so close to modern times where he can say shit like directly talking about the current audition process. Right? Like, the thing that stood out to me the most from these chapters, which, like I said, is largely a discussion, right? It's largely descriptions of their poems or their nursery rhymes, and then discussion of why they were doing it. Is him directly talking about what the audition process can be like, talking to a production manager, doing a scene to a camera, directly confronting that problem, which I just thought was really awesome. Honestly, I thought it was really, really, really great to hear.
Yeah. What I really enjoyed was the freedom of specifically talk about the nursery rhymes, the freedom of making the lines making them fit in any possible way. So
Yes.
it wasn't just like, oh, you're telling the nursery rhyme. It's like you're able to layer as much context and then rearrange not necessarily the order of the words. You keep the order of the words, but like who is saying them when can change on a dime. So I really enjoyed especially the go to bed Tom.
Right.
By after the second time they went through it, because they went through it 4 times. Um After the second one, I I had a feeling that I was like, "Oh, well, go to bedtime. Somebody's gonna die. Like somebody is going to tell someone to go to sleep, and it means die."
Right.
And then you get to the point where it's somebody that's really ill, that's just trying to get away with something, but they can't. And then it's like that was heartbreak. And then they go back the 4th time, and it's somebody that is so overwhelmed as a caretaker that they're taking the life of the person that they're responsible for taking care of. And that just like sucked the air out of me because haven't like I've heard stories of people that have just been pushed so far to the brink they don't have support, and then to have the the actors in that situation with the wherewithal of being like, oh yeah, what is that like? And for it to be performed as well as it came off just reading it, it was really cool to see the different takes on it.
I think that goes back to a point that the narrator makes at some point. It's not in these two chapters. It's not, but it's very prevalent in these chapters where he's noticing that Esper only asks questions, and very, very rarely does he answer. Like, does he say it is this way, it is this way, right? We've talked about that before, but there's a side blop, a little blip of that in that chapter where the narrator points out that it's because the actors are already creative people. And so when you give them the creative freedom of asking them questions, they will come up with solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what he does after in the precursor of the chapter, right? And I think that is so, I mean, reading that for me, I just thought of all the contextless auditions you get. And I thought, well, I'm really excited to try this because I don't know, like I find myself, and I'm sure you guys did too, thinking, answering the questions he's asking, right? Like looking at the nursery rhymes and being like, well, what would I do? Well, what would I do? What would I do? Let me have some fun with this. Like, and, I think he gives you so much permission to be that creative person, which I think, at least for me, can get sucked out of the acting process. Um, I think it's so easy to get that sucked out. Honestly, probably in any art, because where you're dependent on another person to like what you're doing, which is all of them, right? I mean, it's like kind of like a pitfall because it's like if you stop doing things for other people, your art becomes better. But but emotionally, it feels like you should be doing things for that other people like so that you will get work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so often I feel like I forget, and it's kind of sad. I forget that the actor's process should be creative. The reason it's like felt like I was, you lose touch with something that is like so essential to what drew it to you, like drew you to it in the first place. And Esper just puts it out. Allie.
I will say, and to add to that, I still say the best director I ever had, he sat back and he let us work. He had a company of actors and he said, I'm not here as a director, I'm here as a fellow actor. Yes, my official role is director, but I am here to simply guide you. And he did exactly what Esper did. He asked us questions. If he didn't understand a scene that was happening in front of him, he stopped it and he asked us what was happening, what's our actions, what are we trying to achieve in this scene. And then once we communicated that, he'd have us do it again and guarantee every single time it was always clearer, it was always better. And at the end, if he liked it, he would sit back, he'd go, that'll do me. He was British. So I didn't do it in the accent, but he'd sit back and he'd go, that'll do me. And we laughed and we carried on and we said, see you tomorrow. But don't think I've done work as clear and as good as I did with that director who just let us play in the moment and have fun and explore. Gage.
I just want to propose this question to everybody because I'm thinking about it. It's on this topic. When do you guys think the last time, if ever, you approached a role or had the permission to approach a role or a scene or a monologue or whatever with the level of creativity that he's having them approach it with, at least the nursery rhyme chapter?
I think really only that time with that director. So that was summer of 2024.
I don't
Well,
I don't think I ever really have. Um and I don't know if it's necessary. The reason I say that is because sometimes their vision is well formed enough that it is about you working towards their vision more than you exploring and find because I had a blend of this recently with the shoot I just did over the weekend where I was given the script, and thank you. Um, and for the first week that I had it, I was going through and making decisions, and then I got a new version of the script, and some of the lines changed. That changed the intention completely. And so then I reached out and was like, hey, I have some questions. I want to run them by you. And so we had a meeting over Zoom between the director, the producer, and myself. And then we were asking questions back and forth. And my questions inspired the director, who also was the writer, to answer these questions. And so that's where it became a little more collaborative, where the way I approached it wasn't necessarily the way that he had envisioned it. So then I had to make adjustments because I, especially with him as the writer and the director, I am very willing to concede to what his intentions are as opposed to my perception. And I think that's where some of the previous books that we have read, it's very much like, what do you want out of it? Blah, 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 blah. And that's not necessarily the reality. Something that I'm realizing reading these books is I think that writers and directors and producers should be reading these books too, so that they understand this side of it, because I have naturally just been like a cinephile, and I've always watched all the behind the scenes stuff. One of my favorite things to do is to watch the Corridor Crew on YouTube to get breakdowns and opinions on special effects and practical effects and all this stuff, because I am a huge fan of all of the aspects of the storytelling, and it's not just about, oh, my performance as an actor. No, it is a collaborative effort, and I think the more knowledge that each individual department has of the others gains a respect, as well as not crossing lines. Like, I'm not going to tell uh anybody doing sound, anybody doing costuming, makeup, how to do their job. All I can do is ask questions. So like for one of the final shots in the short, uh we wrapped up last night, and I just asked the director, I was like, "Hey, would it be interesting if we just had a cigarette here, because we bring up this line earlier and I think it might be just like a fun little thing for the audience to see this character get that like unimportant reward, but like it is." And he was like, "I love that. Yeah." So it's like even we can approach with questions as opposed to what I heard. Oh man, there was this one guy playing a cop in it, and he was telling me about this guy that he was interacting with, because he asked me if there was ever a time that I was on set with an actor I didn't like. And I just looked at him and I was like, not until you. And we both had a laugh because we just met and we're just having a good
You were
time.
serious and he didn't know you were serious.
I was deadpan, and he was like, and then he started bursting out laughing, and we had a good laugh. But he was telling me that there was a guy on set that would butt heads with the director, because he was saying, as an artist, I don't feel my character would say this. And everything was as an artist, and that's the way he presented it. So it was very resistant the whole time, as opposed to, and I just told him flat out, I was like, that guy is just an asshole. He isn't actually doing the work. He just wants to be lauded and thought of as so smart and so good, and that's not the point. But if he had approached how we're reading it in these books, which is, you find a way to make what the lines are make sense to you.
Yeah.
You go to it. You don't make it easier for you from the outside. You make it easier from the inside to then reach those lines. So like I understand that, like, it would be cool if all of these directors would just ask open-ended questions and then laser them down to then get to the answer, because that does create a lot of creativity for us in answering. But I don't necessarily think that it's doable just because people are people.
Right.
Well,
I don't disagree with you, but that's not really what I'm more referencing when you have your freedoms.
Yeah.
When you are getting
Mm.
an audition that you don't know the director, they've given you so little information, which is probably 90% of auditions. They give you 3 pages, and now it's your job to fill out the world. When's the last time? And
Ah,
I want Juan to answer that too, because I totally get what you're saying, and that I think both sides should be asking questions. It's not like that asshole
yeah.
who's like, I don't think my character, right? Like, you know, he is an asshole, right? And I want Juan to answer that too before I continue. But Juan, what do you think that when do you feel the last time that you approached something with that level of creativity is?
I mean, honestly, the only thing I can come to mind is that right now I'm thinking about changing my go-to monologue for like season auditions.
Mhm.
So there's a big audition, like unified auditions, and it's like several theaters in one go. And I've always had a like a go-to, like my bread and butter, and it's always done me very well. But and it's I guess it's difficult to see when you're making positive strides in your career and when you're overthinking things, because I'm making this I'm toying with that with this idea strictly based off of I guess like my results in auditions within the past year or so, not being what I would want them to be. So me thinking if I do an upgrade or an update on my monologue, that maybe that would make a difference. I could be right, I could be wrong. I don't know, but I think that when I have the ability, the room and the freedom to create by myself and then go based off of results or maybe like people that I trust, like their artistic opinion, that I trust can kind of like give me pointers or constructive criticism or those things. Um, but as far as like a director that really l- let me have the freedom to really create, I
Not even a
mean,
director, Juan, just you. Just you. Like when you're working on a monologue, just you alone when you are doing it, not when someone else is giving you permission. Just you.
yeah, I guess it has to be by myself, and it has to be um with a piece that I think I can portray in a realistic manner, to the degree that it's not, it's not something unfeasible. It's not something that I could never audition for. Um, because I think that's kind of what's happening with my go-to. I know that character really well, but it's a character that I think that I'm growing out of unless I place that character in another setting. So for example, when I first played this character, he was in a high school setting. Then I, on my own regard, when I got older, changed that setting to a college setting. And then as an like as I got older, I changed it. It's so applied in like in a cemetery setting. But then, like you're really, is it a stretch? Are you making it your own? Like there's so many different schools of thought, um, but yeah, as far as like when I'm the most free or when I'm able to create the most, it's really when I'm really in myself, like locked locked in a room with the headphones on, and I can really just analyze the text, kind of how they do in chapter 10, line by line. Um, but yeah.
I think my point is like I don't know how well I'm expressing myself, like, but I think it's this. Like I think the last time I did that with a part where I was saying, what does this mean to me? What, where I was remembering that the actor has a creative responsibility, just as the director, just as the audience, just as whatever, was my freshman year of high school playing Peter. And I think that's sad. And I'm grateful to Esper because he's given me permission now that the next time I get an audition, that's what I'm going to do. Next time I work on a monologue, that is what I'm going to do with it. Of course, not being the asshole who's like, I don't think I'd say that, but going to the part. But getting there is the creative part that I'm thinking,
I better understand you now. Gotcha. I
right?
think that's how I have always approached it that way
Mhm,
because that's how I need to, just personally, is
mhm.
I need to understand this character because I've played, I mean, going back to high school, I played a heroin addicted version of Papa Bear from Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I've played, yeah, it was a play written by
Dominic.
one of my classmates. It was called Brown Sugar. It was super dope, and it was Papa Bear telling the story from the execution chair. It was really dope. It was one of the coolest
That's
things I've
fucking
ever
cool.
done. Shout out to Shannon Shepherd. Um,
Holy.
um, but then I've also done like I played Gary in I Hate Hamlet, and he's the agent, so he's like this asshole, and like I've always been like, okay, what part of me do I turn up to do, especially for stage plays? It's definitely turning up parts of me for a stage play, and then what parts of me do I slide into if I'm going to be filmed? Because the subtlety is more for screen, and then the more expressive stuff is going to be for the stage because you need to be readable to the back of the room.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think the big chapter takeaways for me, truly, both of them, and is just finding that lost creativity, tapping back into it, remembering that that is what brought me to this art in the first place, and remembering that creativity doesn't just mean isn't a solo responsibility for anybody,
Mm-mm.
right? Right? It's not just the actor's job, it's not just the director's job, it's the team's job. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. And of course, that's dependent, right? In the audition situation, right, where you're only looking at the tape, then yeah, it is mostly your creativity, but even then you're getting influenced by the creativity of the writer, that you have to go to them, you and I
Well, that's if you're lucky, if you even have the opportunity to speak with them ahead of time.
Mhm.
From
Oh,
what
I'm
I
talking about like
Mhm.
just the creativity that they have placed by writing the text, right? Just
Right.
the text, just in intrinsic creativity that was left from the author.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's my takeaway from the chapters is find that lost creativity. Find
It's
it.
I also,
go
no,
ahead.
no, go ahead, Ali.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think theater and TV film, although they have many different similarities, I think in this modern age of anybody can just pick up a pen and paper and start writing out like a 10-minute short film and produce it.
Mhm.
It's a lot more, I think, up to the actor to make sense. There's so many student films out there. Like I know a lot of us have worked in student films that are written by like 18, 19, 20-year-olds where like I
Yeah.
have this great
Fuck,
idea about
girls, I hate them.
addicted to heroin and it does it from an electric chair. And we have to sit there and go, how do I make this work?
How
Or
do
set
I, as a 15-year-old, be a father that's
Mhm.
addicted to heroin, cheating on Mama Bear with Goldilocks?
Right, asking the questions because questions lead to creativity. You
Mm-hmm.
can't find an answer to a question that you've never asked.
or if you ask these writers, these young writers, hey, what do you mean by this? Or sometimes it's just wrong. Sometimes it's
Right.
as simple as, oh, a crocodile swimming in the Florida Everglades. It's like, you mean an alligator? Because there's not many crocodiles there.
No.
Like, or an anaconda in the Florida Everglades. A python?
Yeah. Something that I really appreciated from my experience over the weekend was the openness of the director, because he didn't even pretend that he had all the answers. So he was very open if we had questions. It's like, well, because of this, what if we did this? And then he'd be like, you know what? I hadn't even thought of it like that. 100%, let's go for that. And
Right.
I
And that's a
think
good collaborator. That's a good director.
an amazing collaborator.
A director does direct you, but that doesn't mean that they're the end all be all of everything.
That's right.
They should
That's right.
want to work with you. I did a
Mhm.
little bit of directing back in the day, and granted, I was working with middle schoolers who like didn't want to memorize their lines and didn't want to do any work because they were in it for the extracurricular. But the kids who wanted to be there, I tried to work with them. I tried to say, hey, I love what you're doing. What if we tweaked it a little bit? Could you try something different? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but could you try something for me and see if you like that more?
Mhm.
And if they were open to working, if they were open to doing it, the kids that you could kind of tell after a couple of times, like these kids don't want to do it. These kids want to do it.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
good. It's a good thing overall for directors to have that level of collaboration, whether you're doing TV, film, or theater.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? It goes back to Alex's point about like really feeling like actors and producers and writers, everybody should read these books. I really think that. And it reminds me of when like, I make my own movies sometimes, I haven't done it in a while, but I'm trying. It's mentally challenging.
The other thing, before you continue, the other thing is sometimes there are external factors that hamper, because I went through that for years. My creativity was stifled for the longest time because I was in survival mode. I was stuck for over a decade of how am I going to pay for all of the things that I need? I was in debt. But and that oppresses you so that you
Of
don't have
course.
the ability to problem solve, to be as creative. Now I am thankfully in a better place, so now I'm dusting off this area
Yeah.
of my brain that had to be locked away for a while just for survival. And now I'm able to re-explore that, and I'm closer to where I was before that point, where I am now hitting a stride that I am gaining that confidence within myself instead of having to fake it till I make it. I'm now at the make it part,
That's
which
dope.
is a relief.
And what about just to drop that before I'll let you go, Ali, before I tell my stupid
You
story.
tell your thing. You speak your truth, King. Go ahead.
How about just also your mental health, dude? I mean, it's all that's another factor that truly dampens creativity is like, it's just being okay,
Yeah.
eating right, taking care of yourself. It's such an
This is
important
water and not soda. There was a time that
water.
this would be soda or Kool-Aid, like
Yeah, no, but I know exactly what you mean, and so my story goes like this. It's a very easy one. It was just when I would direct stuff, like when I was first moving into like the idea of acting needed to be authentic and real, and you needed to feel it and whatever, like whatever. The first mind shift. I'm directing a movie, and I remember my go-to like advice or collaborative effort was just telling everybody don't act. That's all I did. That's all I did. Every fucking scene. I just went, don't act, don't act, don't act. And
which
then
is a
they would
good
go,
first half.
it's not that bad. Yeah, it's
It's a
not that
good
bad.
first half.
What
You
I
just
really
need
needed
it's like,
to
remember, you're
perform.
just doing stuff. You are doing stuff.
Right. Right. Because then they would just do, then, the actors inexperienced or
The
whatever.
energy plummets.
Boom. Right. And they would do nothing. And then I would go, oh, but no, but you remember to listen, like don't do, and so I think the point of it is just like from a director's perspective, reading these books would have made it helpful to talk to them. But also just saying that perspective of telling somebody don't act is incorrect by omission. right? Because
Right.
it's like it's maybe correct in the sense of like don't perform because that's what I mean. Don't do the da 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 da, right? But don't act. It's like no, I want you to be creative. I want you to make decisions. I want you to get yourself to the lines. I don't want you to say my lines. I want you to speak and those come out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's one thing. I'm like 50% an actor, but 50% a writer. I love writing. That's one of my major like process. I love doing that. I published, playwright. I wrote a lot of movies like that. That's what I've done a lot of that. And for me, I get that. That's just illuminating for me. And Esper's helping me put that together. Of like, I don't want them to say my lines. I want them to speak, and that's what comes out. I want those lines to work for you. And that was really, that was my only note outside of the summary that I wrote on both of these chapters was the lines are your tool, not the other way around.
Funny, because what I wanted to say actually directly relates to what you just said. I go through and I highlight on my Kindle, and then my Kindle is able to just like compile all of my highlights, so I just see them all. So one of the things that I
I'm
actually
about to get a Kindle. God damn, what?
love Kindle. I love my Kindle. I encourage everybody to go out and buy a Kindle.
Oh, there goes Allie. Love bombing, keeping with the episode's theme. Love bombing your Kindle.
It's green. It's my favorite color. So sue me. Okay, so 100 and page 186, chapter 10, Spoon Rivers. Until you've pinned down an acting object that has real and deep meaning for you, your speech won't produce any acting. Instead, you'll just be reciting the lines. I did not know how true that was for me until I actually like read that a second time and was like, "Oh shit, how many times have I actually sorry, excuse my profanity. How many times have I actually done a scene where I've actually read this character and been like, "Oh yes, I can replace this object for this and I can replace this person for this." Because a lot of like my go-to monologue that I do for a lot of auditions is Rosalind's epilogue from As You Like It. It's the end of the show. She's just gotten married. The whole like procession is happening behind her, and it stops, or they all leave, and she comes out at the very end of the play and speaks and just says, yeah, okay, so I'm doing this epilogue, but hey, it's okay, right? Like guys do prologues and it's the same thing. And like I know this wasn't like a great play and this isn't a great epilogue, but like, hey, we had fun, right? And like what a cool show this was. And like this was cool, right? It's just her babbling for like a minute and a half, but it's good babbling. And she's telling the audience, and she's like, hey, you with the good beard, like as much of this play as you want. You woman, hey, if you like this show, yay, happy for you. You liked it. It's just her babbling for a minute and a half. But it's good babbling, and she's funny and she's quick and she's great with it. And at the end, she goes, farewell, goodbye, thanks for coming. And everybody claps, and that's the end of the show. I've never gone into that and gone, I just got married. I've never done. I mean, I've referred to the show that's just happened, but I've never been like, "Who did I get married to? Who was
all this
husband?"
mental shit, right? All this
I've
mental
never
shit.
done any of that. I've just
Right.
gone in like, this is the end. Because for me, that's easy. It's easy for me to just go, yeah, I just finished a show. Woo! Did you like it?
Listen, the Spoon River thing, and all of a sudden she realizes that her character has cancer.
Oh my
And
god, bro!
I was
crying.
devastated.
Yes.
Devastated reading through. I had to stop reading halfway through because I was hyperventilating because the realization of that last day and then being like, did you ever understand?
Dude, I was
It wrecked me. my Jess, my girlfriend, got home, and I'm just like, welcome home, da da da, and then all of a sudden she hears me go and snotty, and she goes, oh, you're getting sick, and I was like, no, I've been sobbing, and she goes, oh, and I was like, yeah, this stupid acting book has wrecked me.
It's actually a really good. It's actually very heartfelt and
And
page
then
turner.
it's this
It is.
beautiful this
Learning a lot.
it's such this beautiful, beautiful tragedy of like, you love me so much. You treat me with the respect now that you gave me when we were young. You have given me everything, but I can't keep going. Can you understand it? I know you can't hear me, but can you understand it?
That might have been the part that wrecked me harder, man. Like that she couldn't express that because she had already done
Couldn't
it.
console him.
Right.
Couldn't
Dude,
console him.
that was exactly my thought of just like this is the creativity that I'm looking for. And I want to propose a new segment to everybody in the group. It's the first time we're doing it. This is live. All right. I'm gonna call
We're
it
doing it live.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it because we only have 4 minutes left. I'm gonna call it 3 minutes in Juan heaven. Okay. And it's where we make Juan say his thoughts for 3 minutes. What do we think? Do we like it?
I love
I
it.
I
think
love
it's a
it.
terrible idea.
I love it. It's
I love
I
approved.
think it's a terrible idea.
It's
Three
3-1
A's.
approved.
Okay, A's win. Go.
The A's have it. The floor is yours, Juan.
Wow, this is great. First of all, you run my pre-show ritual, and now you put me on the spot. Let me see. What can I give you? Let me sell myself. Cast me. Nada. I thought they were solid fucking chapters. I thought that I was also honestly pretty wrecked, especially when she didn't know that she was like that she was thinking of killing herself. In the midst of reading that, that was my big like aha moment or whatever. I think that wrecked me more than anything. Um, I I thought that that the lullabies were I loved the lullabies. I loved it more than honestly arguably 10. I remember Spoon River being brought up in the group because what's his name had done him before. His name escapes me right now.
Christian.
Christian, yes. Christian had
Shout
done
out
him
to
before,
Christian.
and a big shout out to Christian. And I know he was speaking very highly of them. I hadn't read the anthology before. I don't know if you guys have.
I still haven't. I still haven't.
Okay. Have any of you guys?
No.
No,
No?
but I will be after I got wrecked by one of them. I was like, damn, I'm reading that.
Have you guys done the exercise at all?
No, because the exercise involves like the book explains where you choose different ones out of the book and then you perform them. So I didn't get to that part in the Meisner class I previously had taken. We we did criminal activities.
I'm also interested to see how he's gonna put a bow in this book. Because the first one definitely left it open to like I definitely saw that the second one was, before even knowing, I knew that it was there, but I don't know how he's gonna wrap this up in a bow.
What if a door swings open and it says William Esper will return?
Book 3, never read.
Never.
Oh my god.
It's in a vault somewhere. It's gonna be released.
Yeah, and Meisner crawls out of the ground. Strasbourg.
The 4 horsemen are
Oh
that's
my
the actual
God.
sign of the apocalypse. It's Uta Hagen, Stella Adler, Sandy Meisner all coming out of their graves.
Oh my god.
Oh,
How is that not like a Pixar movie?
Oh, Pixar movie. Horror movie.
That was 3 minutes in Juan heaven. I think that was great.
I think that's now a new
you.
thing.
I think that's
Thank
a new
you, I
segment.
try.
3 minutes in Juan heaven. Can we make that a thing?
I think we can.
Yes.
What is it when you're like a politician and you have to speak nonstop
The
for
gerrymandering or no?
Filibuster.
Filibuster.
Oh, yeah.
filibuster. There we go.
Trying to
Yes,
get the
I felt
time.
like
It's
Did you
yeah,
fill up
I
Quanabuster.
felt like
podcast?
Leslie Nope for a second. That's time, ladies and gentlemen. Is there any? Does anybody have anything else to say before we wrap up?
Find your creativity.
I like your shirt, Juan.
Thank you kindly.
Damn, I know the rest of that quote. It's a good Harry Potter quote.
My final thing is gonna be finding joy and creating things is the ultimate form of protest in times of dire desperation.
Oh yeah.
So find the joy
Oh, yeah.
and be creative.
And then particularization supply the meat your performance needs, which is behavior.
Ooh.
That's a quote.
Also, try to
Oof.
manipulate your friends this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds that one.
That's beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, join us next week for chapters 11 and 12. God, we are getting further in there. Join us every week. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Thank you. Bye.